You admire the gondolas, but beneath you lies the greatest technical scam in history. You've been lied to since your first history lesson. Venice is not a miracle on the water, but a site of cynical engineering falsification on a scale that makes your skin crawl. Think about it. A stone city weighing millions of tons sitting on a treacherous swamp. They tell us that marble palaces are supported by wooden sticks driven into the mud. Petrified larch in an airless environment is a convenient fairy tale for the textbooks. But any engineer knows, organic matter in salt water decomposes. It doesn't turn into an eternal foundation. Where did the mountains of waste go? Where did the armies of workers live? And why are the main entrances of buildings half flooded today? This isn't an architectural choice, it's the trace of something terrifying. I'm glad to see you on the channel where we cut through the abscesses of official science. Today we're going to dismantle this myth brick by brick. Trust me, a single calculation of the foundation of just one church turns history into dust. Are you ready to find out how many forests would actually have to be destroyed? Pyramids are child's play. The official history of Venice serves up a project that would make modern developers, with all their satellite navigation, weep. Are you ready to behold the figures that historians shamefully hide in the footnotes? Under the foundation of the Basilica della Salute alone, 1,156,657 piles were driven. That is 3,000 hectares of forest clear-cut to the ground. Now, scale that across all of Venice. They are feeding us nonsense, claiming that millions of trunks were hauled from the Alps on rickety wagons along mountain trails. This is logistics at the level of a transnational corporation, and all of this was supposedly pulled off by refugees shivering in the reeds to hide from barbarians. The mathematics screams, such resources are only within the power of a super-civilization, not frightened migrants with axes. But the numbers are just the beginning. The real horror starts when you calculate the driving time. When you hear the actual work schedule, you will realize, according to the laws of logic, they wouldn't have finished this church even by this morning. Imagine a gruesome scene. Generations of builders were born and died to the rhythmic thud of the hammer, yet the foundation of a single building wasn't even a quarter finished. This isn't a snippet from a dystopian novel, it is the official version of the Venetian construction reality that we are forced to believe. In our day, a diesel pile driver handles a pile in minutes, but in the fairy tale Middle Ages, there was only the block, a multi-ton weight and raw muscle power. Let's do the math. Suppose a crew drives one pile into the viscous soil per hour. Even if they worked like Terminators 24/7, one group would finish the foundation of the Salute only after 114 years. To meet the deadlines, thousands of crews would have had to work simultaneously on a tiny patch of land. Where did they sleep? Where did they get food amidst the salt spray? Where did the tons of waste from this army of workers go so that the city didn't drown in sewage while still at the excavation stage? Venice is an architectural phantom that physically could not have been erected using the manual methods of the past. If humans couldn't build this within the stated time frame, it means the methods used were beyond our understanding. Are you ready to hear the truth about the eternal wood, which upon inspection turns out to be something else entirely? Historians feed us a miracle that defies the laws of biology. The wood doesn't rot because it has petrified, they claim. Are you seriously ready to swallow this pseudo-scientific bait that falls apart at the first sign of interrogation? They keep telling us about larch wood that supposedly turns into granite in salty mud. But wood is organic matter. Bacteria don't read textbooks, they simply devour cellulose. For organic material to be replaced by minerals, it takes millions of years, not a couple of centuries in a sewer. Independent analyses of building foundations are shocking. It is neither wood nor stone. The structure of the material resembles geopolymer concrete, a lost high-tech of antiquity. Official science clings to the pile-driving version like a lifesaver, because admitting concrete technology existed in the Dark Ages would instantly collapse the entire established chronology of humanity. If the foundation is artificial stone, where did runaway peasants get it? The answer lies in old maps that show a Venice entirely different from the one we know. Are you ready to see the city before it was swallowed by the water? The amphibious city is the most beautiful lie in the history of tourism. We've been forced to believe that architects voluntarily waded into a swamp just to hide a grim truth. Venice was never intended to be a city on canals. It is the victim of a planetary catastrophe. Look at the main entrances of the palaces. Today, those magnificent arches are half submerged in stinking sludge. They lie to us about water gates, but what architect in their right mind would design an entrance so that mold destroys the interior from day one? The ground floor windows literally peer out from beneath the water. This isn't a whim, it's a tragedy. Everything falls into place if you admit one thing. Venice was built on dry land. What we call canals were once paved avenues where horsemen rode. A global flood turned first floors into basements and streets into sewers. Official history suppresses the cataclysm, spinning tales of industrious refugees so that we don't go looking for the traces of a lost civilization. If the city was simply flooded, it means it was built from materials that don't fear water. And here is where an engineer's brain begins to boil. How do you transport millions of tons of stone across the sea without powerful cranes and a modern fleet? Physics is a ruthless judge that doesn't care for the fairy tales of historians. Attempting to load a multi-ton slab onto a medieval wooden vessel is a death sentence for both the ship and its crew. Venice is clad in Istrian stone, an ultra-dense limestone transported over hundreds of kilometers. We are talking about millions of tons of monolithic blocks. A shift in the center of gravity by just 10 centimeters, and the vessel goes to the bottom. How was this transported for decades without losses? But the real absurdity is the brick. A single palazzo requires 500,000 pieces. To fire that much clay at 1,000 degrees Celsius, you would have to burn down the forests of all Europe. Where are these factories? In a wooden city on stilts. A single spark would have been enough for a fire of planetary proportions, even at the foundation stage. The logistics of this construction are not just questionable, they are technically impossible for the claimed era. But if stones and fire look like fiction, the question of human survival in this trap is beyond any logic. What did 200,000 people drink in the middle of a salt marsh where there isn't a single freshwater spring? Try to survive at sea without a drop of fresh water. You'd go mad in 3 days. Now imagine 200,000 Venetians in a salt lagoon. They tell us they drank rainwater, but that version dries up faster than a puddle under the Italian sun. Historians point to the wells in the squares. These are cisterns. The sand filters the rain. It sounds romantic until you switch on an engineer's brain. Drinking, cooking, the needs of glass factories. That's millions of liters daily. Droughts in Italy are the norm. Putting an empire at the mercy of the clouds is strategic suicide that no doge would ever commit. These wells are merely the tip of the iceberg. Hidden beneath the city is an autonomous system whose technologies are either lost or suppressed. These are the remnants of an infrastructure from a time when the city stood on the mainland and was fed by giant aqueducts. We were left with only decorative covers and a primitive explanation concealing the truth of its former greatness. But if the water situation is all tied up, where did the waste go? In a city on water, the absence of a sewage system is a guaranteed apocalypse. Are you ready to find out why Venice didn't die out from cholera in its very first year? A medieval metropolis without a sewage system is not a city, it is a biological bomb. They tell us that Venetians simply dumped everything into the canals, relying on the tides. Have you ever wondered why the city didn't become a mass grave from the very first outbreak of cholera? The official version is an insult. The tides carried away the filth. But a lagoon is a closed system with standing water. In such conditions, heat and bacteria should have wiped out the population every 3 months. Yet for centuries, Venice remained a center of luxury where the nobility breathed sea breezes, not the stench of a cesspool. How? The answer is hidden beneath the silt. Concealed under the pavements are diagrams of ancient tunnels and airtight collectors that guides never mention. This is a highly complex hydraulic system that could not have functioned in a submerged state. It was built for a city on dry land. When the water rose, the new masters merely adapted the remnants of greatness to survive in a swamp. What we call the foundation was merely an attempt to save existing sinking buildings. But if the city was going under, it means they were trying not just to build it, but to cleanse it. Are you ready to find out what actually happened in St. Mark's Square in 1902? In 1902, the heart of Venice stopped. The giant campanile suddenly turned into a pile of rubble. But if you think it simply grew tired of standing, you are mistaken. The footage of that collapse gives demolition experts cold sweats. The tower didn't lean, and it didn't crumble brick by brick. It folded strictly vertically into itself, turning into a mountain of dust in a matter of seconds. This is a classic scenario of controlled demolition, not foundation decay. What if it was taken out intentionally? Rumors persist that mechanisms or elements of ancient energy technology were discovered inside, things that were impossible to explain to tourists. The tower was rebuilt suspiciously fast, but it is now a hollow concrete box, a mere imitation of former greatness. We are looking at a replica, while the original, which held the technical secrets of the past, was wiped from the face of the earth under the guise of an accident. This cleanup was not a one-time event. It is happening right now. Under the pretext of restoration, everything that prompts the right questions is being purged from the city. Are you ready to find out how modern technologies are erasing our past? While you take selfies, builders are methodically erasing history. Under the guise of saving heritage, a large-scale cleanup of evidence is underway. You think they are restoring antiquity? No, they are finally burying it. Look closely at the restoration. Unique ancient mortar is being replaced with ordinary cement, and anti-corrosion ties made of unknown alloys are being tossed out as scrap metal. This isn't negligence, it's policy. Physical evidence, the stones and the joints, is being destroyed while information about them is being digitized in the correct light. It is becoming increasingly difficult for researchers to gain access to chemical analyses of the materials. We are left only with a remake that, in 20 years, will be indistinguishable from the original. Once the last authentic block is replaced by an imitation, proving the existence of ancient technologies will become impossible. The original Venice is turning into a hollow stage set for tourists. The city is drowning in an ocean of lies, covered by a gloss of plaster. When you piece these facts together, the picture is terrifying. Are you ready to admit that we are merely accidental tenants in someone else's magnificent house? It is time to tear off the mask. We consider ourselves the pinnacle of progress, but Venice is a silent rebuke to our pride. The truth is that the Venetian nobility were not builders, but lucky scavengers who occupied an empty metropolis after the great waters receded. Technologies appeared in Venice suddenly and at the highest level, without any stages of evolution. Where are the blueprints? They don't exist. This explains why construction began immediately with masterpieces, and the master's secrets were guarded under penalty of death. The new residents did not understand the essence of the mechanisms they inherited. They merely imitated them until they broke. They drove piles into sagging walls, trying to reinforce what had stood for centuries. We are like savages who found a spacecraft and turned it into a grain silo. Venice is an artifact of a civilization that was many times more powerful and intelligent than ours. This is exactly why diving in the canals and investigating the foundations is prohibited by law. The evidence of our technological insignificance is hidden there. Stones cannot lie, unlike those who rewrite the archives. Until the city goes underwater, we have a chance to read the message from the past. Are you ready to hear history's final verdict? Venice is sinking to the bottom, taking with it the last chance to learn the truth about our past. When the original stone is replaced by a concrete fake, the official lie will become the only reality. Are you willing to be just a spectator in this cheap historical theater? We are living on the ruins of a world that was far grander than our own. We take selfies against the backdrop of palaces and believe fairy tales about refugees and miracle larchwood. But the stones do not lie. They hold the records of the golden ratio and the composition of geopolymers that survived a catastrophe. We are merely accidental tenants burning antique parquet to keep warm, unaware that we are standing in a royal palace. We've been brainwashed into thinking this is our own modern creation so that we wouldn't dare look for those who ruled the world before us. Are you looking at the postcards differently now? Leave a like. It's a signal that we are on the right track. Subscribe, because ahead of us are new ghost cities and evidence that science dreams of burying. Tell us in the comments, what did you see in Venice with your own eyes? Your observation could be the one to bring down this wall of lies.